Hello again everyone from Tokyo, Japan, and welcome back to Japan Vintage Camera. Tonight's video is going to be another instructional video, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to do a cleanup of an Olympus 35 DC rangefinder camera. For those of you who saw my last video, you know a little bit about the Olympus DC and how it works. And as I said, most of these cameras are usually in working condition. If you can find one and put a battery in it, more than likely it's going to at least operate. But there are a few things you need to do to these old cameras to make sure that they can take good photographs and that they are operating as well as they can. The first thing that we need to do to clean up one of these cameras is to clean out the viewfinder and rangefinder, and this one here has quite a bit of dust and haze and such on the inside. It's not difficult to clean out, but there are a couple of tricks you have to follow to be able to do it properly. Another issue that these cameras sometimes have is that they get haze or fungus between the lens elements. And that's also not an especially hard repair to perform. More easy on one of these cameras than lots of other ones. A little bit easier than like the Canon QL17 or similar cameras. Another issue with these cameras are the light seals, which tend to get bad and rotten as these are. These have kind of just turned into dust, and there's a lot of dust around on the inside of the camera. So in this repair we're going to be replacing the light seals and getting rid of all the dust as well. So for this repair you need a few tools. The first tool is a Phillips screwdriver. This is a kind of a later model camera, so it uses Phillips screws instead of slotted screws. I have a small slotted screwdriver which I use here for numerous things. There won't be any slotted screws in here, at least I don't think. There might be one or two on the inside of the camera. But generally this is for cleaning up or prying off paper parts or things like that. And there are a couple of paper things on the inside of the camera. Another necessary tool is a pointed lens spanner. You can use a pair of needle nose pliers with sharpened tips. And for small jobs like this screw which holds on the self-timer, you can use a pair of tweezers which have points sharp enough, or you can file or grind the points sharp enough to do the job. Another important thing is assortment of pure cotton swabs, some lens cleaning fluid, and a can of compressed air like this one. I get these from Amazon, or you can also use a blow bottle like this, which is quite a good thing. Something I always carry in my camera bag when I'm out shooting, because I don't always like to, like, clean off the lens when I'm shooting when it gets dirty. Sometimes all I have to do is give it a good blast of air to clean the dust off. I avoid cleaning or rubbing the lenses as much as possible, so this saves a lot on that. And before you clean the lens, you should always try to blow any dust off of it so it doesn't scratch the lens while you're trying to clean it. So anyway, we have everything we need here to start the repair, so we'll go ahead and get started in a moment. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do on this camera is to replace the light seals, because if I don't replace the light seals first and I get to cleaning up the rest of the camera, likely some of the dust or dirt from in the film chamber or wherever it might find its way into areas which I've already cleaned. So we'll try to clean the worst of the mess first, and it's not so difficult to do on the DC. Unlike other cameras, most cameras, the light seals fit in these channels in the body of the camera, whereas on the Olympus DC, RC, and SP, the light seals are actually in the film door itself. To make the job a little easier, I pop off the film pressure plate, and it goes like so. You have to make sure to put the pressure plate back in the right position, because if you put it in backwards, it often grinds against these teeth here when you're trying to wind the film. The proper direction is with a little catch here. Like, we have an even slot here on this side which is equal all the way down. This slot is shaped kind of like a keyhole, and that is the one which fits toward the outside of the camera. And when you pop that in, it kind of locks in place, and you just lift it up like that to put it in the rest of the way. So I'll go ahead and first loosen up the old light seals. What I use for this is just ordinary lacquer thinner, which I put in the syringe. The syringe makes it easier to apply. If you don't have a syringe, you can use a cotton swab, and you kind of bend the tip flat like this, and you can just dip it into the paint thinner. If you have like a model paint thinner, which comes in a small bottle. Yeah, I used to put the thinner in film canisters and just dip it out and apply it, and dip it and apply it, and it gets it nice and wet, and it works. But the syringe makes it a lot easier, and I just apply it like so. As I might have mentioned in previous videos, you might be tempted to like scrape out the dry seal material, so you have less work later on. Oftentimes that actually leaves you more work, because if you leave the old seal material on and you soak it with the lacquer thinner, because there's foam material there, it holds it. And it holds it for a while, and it evaporates more slowly, and allows the paint thinner to dissolve the glue underneath. If you just scrape off all the light seal material to begin with, and then you apply the paint thinner, sometimes it evaporates before it can begin to eat up the glue. So I put a lot here on the channels, and then here on the hinge on the camera there's some more, and usually there's some stuck on the inside of the door as well. So we'll go ahead and let this soak in for a few minutes, and then I'll be back. Okay, so it's had about 5 minutes to soak in, and that should be enough for this camera. I'm going to put this little screwdriver to use. I said I would be using this for prying and stuff like that, but this is actually the exact right size I need for cleaning out the channels on this camera. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just be scraping the seal material off like so on both sides. And get as much off as I can like this. Underneath the workbench here I have a large waste basket, so what I'm going to do is take a toothbrush here, and I'm going to brush off this rubber stuff into the waste basket. And then scrape some more. You want to do a good job on this, because for one thing you want to make sure that no more dust or stuff gets blown around inside the camera. For another thing, when you're installing new light seals, they won't stick properly unless you clean off the old light seal material and glue. There's some along the back here by where the film door latch is shut. There isn't so much on this particular camera. Some of these cameras don't have this spring right here, and rather than have this spring, they have an extra thick layer of rubber light seal material. Konica C35 also has it like that. And that makes it much more difficult to clean out. But if you're lucky enough to have the camera with the spring on here, you'll have less labor involved. And to do more detailed cleaning, I take a cotton swab and I wet it with paint thinner, and you can see how much it picks up there. When I'm cleaning these out, I use my pliers here to pinch the tip of the cotton swab so it fits in to the channel better. Let me do a few more here. This is kind of an exciting part of the repair. You might want to fast forward through this, or maybe I'll fast forward it myself when I'm editing the video. Okay, so I've got it cleaned out pretty well. The light seals are not so difficult to replace from this point. I use this material here. This is a self-adhesive light seal material which I get from a place called Japan Hobby Tool. And they sell on Amazon. I'm not sure if you can find this that easily in other places. I suppose you could, or you can always go shopping on Amazon.jp and to buy things which they sell in Japan. One thing I find about Amazon.jp compared to the American site is that this being Japan, things tend to be a little more expensive here. Besides cameras, I also like working on computers and things like that, and Amazon is a good source for computer parts in other places and in Japan too, except in Japan we expect to pay at least twice as much for parts as you would pay in America or somewhere else. So when I'm shopping for these parts, I tend to buy them from Amazon.com. And even with shipping all the way here to Japan, I usually save about a third of what I would pay if I had bought them here locally. Though I have to wait a while for them to be shipped, I'd rather wait than pay a third more. So anyway, putting in the new light seals is just like so. And on the one here, on the bottom, it goes to this place where there's kind of a, where it widens out. I simply cut it here. And I'll cut out another piece to put on that side. And start here. Now the good thing about the channels, or the light seals being in the door and not the channels, is that they're much easier to put in. It's easier to clean out the old light seal material, and it's easier to install the new light seals when they're arranged like this. And I have a piece of material here which should fit in here, so I kind of cut it to the right size like so. And I'll cut the corner off like so. It's still a little bit wide, so I'll make it a little bit narrower. Cutting it down with some scissors. Alright. And that's about the right size. Alright, that looks good. I need a couple more small bits. One has to go across the channel right here, so I just kind of hold it like this, and a good way to measure the width sometimes, like for the channel here, is I'll just push it like that and it leaves a mark. And that's the spot here by where the door is. Alright, that's just right. Alright, and the last part I have to do is the seal which goes here by the hinge of the door. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and measure another piece like so. It's a little bit wide, so I cut it to fit. When I'm cutting, I always look at the side I'm going to cut off so I can see how much I'm cutting off, and keep a straight line when I'm cutting. Alright, that's just about perfect. Okay, I'll go ahead and close it up, pop it open. Right, so everything looks good there. Light seals are all in place. I have to take my toothbrush and do some more brushing and cleaning. I'll take my blower and do some blowing. It's kind of dirty in here, so I'll take my lens cleaning fluid and kind of wipe it around here. Try not to get any on the new light seals. But these are kind of, they're raised up on the side to kind of prevent stray light, and that also prevents the fluid from leaking onto them. Please don't do this using paint thinner or something like that after you put in the new light seals, or it will dissolve the new ones just as well as it dissolves the old ones. Okay, that's much cleaner. And go ahead and put in the film pressure plate. And as I said, the keyhole side here points toward the outside, and the U-shaped one points toward the hinge. That's in, and to make sure it works. Okay, so it winds without making any funny grinding noise, so I know that I've put it in the right way. Okay, so the first step of this repair is done. The light seals have been replaced. The next step is going to be cleaning and adjusting the viewfinder and rangefinder. So stay tuned, I'll be right back. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started on doing the rangefinder and viewfinder cleaning. First thing I'm going to do is remove this film rewind knob. I'll take this screwdriver and put it on in between the forks on the inside, pop open the lever, and just give it a short twist like that, and it comes right out. This always falls out. What I do to make sure that I don't lose anything is I'll take the small washer, and I'll just screw it on and set it to the side. The next step is to remove the nut which holds on the winding lever. That also turns off counterclockwise. On many cameras, the threads are reversed on these here. Cameras like the Pentax MX or things like that. So if you're trying to twist this off to the left and it's not going, be very careful, because you might end up breaking it off. And if you break off one of these nuts, it's really difficult to drill out the broken off material and then to find a new nut to put the camera back together. If you turn it a little bit to the left and it's not coming out, try turning it to the right. You might have better luck, but avoid trying to break these. These have washers underneath sometimes, just like the OM cameras or whatever. You don't want to lose these washers, because if you do, when you wind the film, the lever might scratch the top cover. I use a couple of old filters as dishes to put my hardware. Next thing is we have here is a nut which holds on this side of the top cover, and I need the pointed spanners to remove that. This sometimes comes off easily, like in this case. Sometimes it doesn't come off easily. Just be careful with it that you don't strip it or mess it up. On this side here we have a Phillips screw. That has to come off. The next step is removing the self-timer lever, and this is one of those parts which does have reverse threads, so instead of turning it to the left to take it off, you have to turn it to the right, like so. And it just comes off like so. I come across a lot of these cameras where these are broken, and that is because whoever was trying to take it apart didn't understand that the threads were backwards, and they just kept twisting on it until the nut broke off. Alright, the top cover should lift off now, and luckily on these cameras it's not attached by any wires. So I take off the shutter button and put it in the tray here, and the inside of this camera is really clean. The light seals were a real mess, but looking at the inside of the top here, there's very little sign of wear and tear. No dust or dirt or grime or anything like that. Some of these cameras look quite bad on the inside. This combination of metals, brass and steel and other things, and the lead solder used, sometimes in the right or I guess wrong environment, these become corroded and green and nasty. So it looks like this camera was stored more carefully. And it has a diode here. Looks like it might have been I don't know, a version made for a newer battery, or I might be mistaken. Some of these have these and some of these don't. Anyway, as I said before, I mentioned one of the reasons I had the slotted screwdriver. Sometimes I have to remove screws on the top to access the inside, and that is the case here. So I'll take my slotted screwdriver and remove this brass screw, set it there. On the back here we have a second screw, a Phillips screw, so I'll go ahead and take that out. With these two screws, this printed circuit board can be moved. This one's got a clamp on the back here to guide the wiring. I want to move it more, so I need to remove this so I can get a little more movement in the wiring. And that comes off like that. The clip came off. Some of these have a clip on them still, some of them don't. What I want to do is I just want to move this out of the way of the circuit board, and then kind of pry up on the paper here, peel it off a little bit. And on these cameras they have a little baffle here, and it's kind of locked in place with glue. You can often clean out around this baffle, the front glass. For myself, I try to pull it out because it pulls out and slides back in. And I'm not sure why they put the baffle in here, because with or without the baffle you seem to get the same field of view through the viewfinder, but that's it. And I just add it to my tray of parts. Alright, so all of the glass here is exposed on the inside and outside. Here we have the mask, and this is where this has lines marked around it, and this is where you get the frame lines projected into the viewfinder. Sometimes there are bright or light spots in the middle of the mask. When you have the top off, you can get rid of those spots in your viewfinder by just putting touches of paint. You can do that on either side. This side is the easy side to get to, so you can block it off like that. We have the beam splitting mirror here. We have the mirror which reflects the frame lines onto the beam splitting mirror. Here is the rangefinder mirror, and that projects the rangefinder image onto the beam splitting mirror. And then back here we have the eyepiece lens, and of course the viewfinder lens on the front. So the first thing I do is blow the dust out, being careful not to blow the viewfinder mask. That's just a piece of plastic which is painted, and it can be blown away. So I'll get a few cotton swabs here and get to work with my lens cleaning fluid. And this one isn't so bad, just a little bit of haze and stuff. This camera was made in the 1970s, which is a fair number of years ago, so there's going to be some kind of haze and stuff in here. The haze is sometimes just caused by dust in the air, and also by the gassing of the plastic components on the inside. These let out kind of the solvents and stuff used in plastic and rubber tends to gas out over time and adhere to the glass and discolor it, or it adheres to the glass and then dirt in the air sticks to it. To get on the insides of the glass, I always squeeze the cotton swabs flat like so. That way I can reach into the corners. And I'll go ahead and do the back of this one and this one here, the front of the beam splitting mirror. Making sure I reach all the way to the corners and all the visible spots. Go ahead and do it. Use a second swab to make sure I get into everything. I didn't miss anything. Cotton swabs, I'm economical with these. They cost about, here in Japan, about a penny each, which is not a big deal, but when you use as many as I do, it adds up to a lot. So after I use them for cleaning glass, I put them in another container, and then I use them for cleaning out old light seal gunk and stuff like that. Okay. The next step is cleaning the rear of the beam splitting mirror and the lens which magnifies the viewfinder, or I guess the frame lines on the glass. Okay. Always be gentle with the beam splitting mirror. It can be rubbed off. Even on these later model cameras, the coating is more durable, but it can still be scratched, which is a good reason to blow out the dust before you start. And I usually use more. I get the cotton swab more wet when I'm doing the beam splitting mirror, because that allows it to kind of soak up or pick up more of the dirt before I begin cleaning it off. Okay. And then I'll clean off the rangefinder mirror. I'll be gentle on the rangefinder mirror also, because the reflective coating is on the outside, it's not under glass, and you can rub the reflective coating off if you're not careful. Flatten this up a little more. Okay, and the last thing is to clean off the frame line reflecting mirror here and the other side of the lens. Alright, and everything looks clean here. We have a couple of adjusting screws here. Normally for adjusting the rangefinder, there are a couple of points here. For the infinity adjustment, normally you would take off the screw here inside the film chamber on the back, and underneath that is the screw for the infinity adjustment. And the vertical adjustment is located in this little screw right here, which is kind of hard to see, but there are a couple of different ways to do it, but you can access it through the top of the underneath the flash hot shoe. You remove the plastic clip and then pry up on the metal shield which goes over the top. Usually comes off more easily than that. And you just slide it backward, usually more easily than this. And anyway, you can see there's an access hole here. When you remove the dust cover, you can get inside and make the vertical adjustment on the rangefinder. Okay, so this is all cleaned out. I'm going to go ahead and blow out the dust, and I'm going to reattach this paper dust shield here. So just use a very small amount of contact cement on just 2 spots. And it's kind of easy to see how this goes. It just fits around like so. And make sure that the holes for the 2 screws are visible through the paper. I'll start with the Phillips screw first. That's the easiest one to line up and start. The slotted screw, because it's a slotted screw, the screwdriver doesn't hold it as easily. And it's a brass screw, so a magnetic tip doesn't hold it in place very well. And then we have the clip which holds the wire and the screw which holds the clip. And I'll just put that on like so. Okay, everything is back in place. The next thing to do is to clean the inside glass here. The inside glass on the top cover. Oh, it's a little dirty. You can see it getting discolored there as I wipe it off. And hold the cotton swab sideways here. This one is glued in place. On some cameras it's better to just remove the glass entirely and clean it separately and put it back in. But gluing and ungluing the glass in these cameras is a little bit more difficult. You risk damaging, breaking the glass, or cracking the plastic. So they clean up quite well just leaving the lens in place. It's completely flat across the back. There's no like metal bezel or plastic bezel which allows dust to get behind it, so you can do a good job just by doing it this way. And I want the finish to look good, and there's some places here on the front where it's hard to clean if the top cover is on, so I'll clean it up with a little bit of metal polish on the front. And metal polish like this is also good when the glass has marks in it. The haze, sometimes chemical residue causes haze on the glass, which won't clean out with lens cleaning fluid. So sometimes a little bit of metal polish rubbed in a circular motion on the glass with a little bit of pressure will remove that haze from the glass and make it much more clear. It may not clear it up all the way, but it'll make it much more clear than it otherwise would be. I'm going to go ahead and clean here behind where the switch goes. Okay, and the next thing I have to do is put in my shutter button here. And I'll go ahead and set that like that, and then slowly lower the cover on. Pull that over so it pops up. Okay, the top cover is back on. So I'll go ahead and replace the screw over here on this side. And replace the nut on this side. And tighten it with the spanner, just snug. Someone else may have to take this camera apart again, or maybe I will have to take it apart again one of these days, and I don't want that to be too difficult. I'm going to go ahead and clean under here right now. The rewind knob on these cameras doesn't lift up like on other cameras, so now's a good chance to clean out underneath. Go ahead and pop open the film door, take the rewind shaft, the rewind knob, I'll feed that up that way, and put it in and give it a twist like so. Also clean up a little bit here underneath the winding lever, because this will be covered soon and I won't be able to clean it underneath it after I put the lever back on. Okay, that looks pretty good. I put the spacer back on, and the winding lever and the nut. Okay, So now that's not rubbing. I'll tighten it just a little bit. And next, reattach the self-timer lever. And once again, this is a reverse thread, so I'll tighten it oppositely by turning it to the left. Okay. So if I were adjusting the rangefinder right now, I already checked this one earlier and it's adjusted. As I said, I would remove this screw, and after the screw is out you can see the adjusting screw underneath. And once it's adjusted, I'll go ahead and replace the cover screw. And then if I do need to do the vertical adjustment, which is kind of uncommon on these cameras, I'll slide this back and I'll be able to find the adjusting screw located just underneath. It's within sight if you look through the slot. Alright, so so far we've finished a couple of things here. We've replaced the light seals in the camera. We've cleaned out the viewfinder and rangefinder assembly. The next step will be to clean out the inside elements of the lens. So let's take a break for a moment and I'll return. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started on cleaning out the inside element of the lens. This is a little bit of a tricky job because the adjustment for the film speed and the light meter and such is located on the front, so we have to be kind of careful here, and there'll be a few things that may or may not be in the way. As usual, I will lubricate the filter threads with lighter fluid. You can use paint thinner, something like that. I'll take my spanner here and reverse it so the points are outward. And there will be a couple of slots located here where I can put in the tips of the tool. Somewhere. There they are. Using the lighter fluid or paint thinner or whatever it is you're going to use makes this job a lot easier. Oftentimes these get stuck, or sometimes the filter ring is a little bit distorted, sometimes not enough that you would see a dent or something in it, but enough to where it makes it difficult to remove these. If so, a little paint thinner or lighter fluid makes these much easier to remove. Okay. The next thing we have to do is remove this lens nameplate here. And this comes out as kind of a complete assembly, and it is engaged in here with this pin which sits down here. So I don't want to adjust, I don't want to mess with any of this. Next thing you need to do is remove the lens element, and on the Olympus here they have couple of detents on either side, or notches on the sides of the lens, and normally I can reach these with my spanner here, and that was remarkably easy to get out. That's not normally so easy, unfortunately. That one doesn't want to come out so easy. I have a suction tool here which makes it a lot easier to remove it. One of my daughter's old toothbrushes. They're quite useful. Alright, and there's a trick. There's no bulb setting on this shutter to hold it open to clean the inside of the rear element, and whenever you're trying to clean something, the thing you're trying to clean is usually in the most difficult location. So what I'll do is I'll take a couple of cotton swabs. I'll take one and I'll cut the tip off like so, and I'll go ahead and get the other one ready with a little bit of lens cleaning fluid. I'll charge the shutter like so, and I'll put this nearby, and then fire the shutter. Usually it'll stay open long enough to where I can hold it open with the cut off end of the other cotton swab. And then I just clean like so. I don't want to do this twice, so I make sure to do as good a job as I can the first time. I'll move the cut off cotton swab to different locations so I can clean every part, including the spot where the cotton swab was sitting. Alright, and then I'll blow out any dust and let it close. That's it, the inside is clean. Then I want to clean the back side of the front element. And clean it like so. And I really want to make sure that there is no haze or anything. I've got a light set up nearby that I can look through. Okay. Blow it off. And then thread it back on. Use my suction cup tool here. And that's in. Okay, that's tight. Alright, and then replace this where it is supposed to go. Okay, make sure I have it in the right spot. If I turn the film adjusting knob with the lens at close focus, it should move both ways. Okay, so it is, so that's on correctly. If it's not turning the right way, you're going to have to take this back out and index the pin here with the slot, which you'll find where it engages with the ring behind here. There's a slot where the pin fits in. And to make this go on easier, just like it came off easier, I'll put a little bit of fluid on it like so. And take my screwdriver here. Once again, reverse the tips on my tool here. Okay, that's in the right position. Make sure once again that everything is working. And then clean off the marks from the suction cup tool. Okay. And I'm using the ceiling light above my shoulder on the ceiling to reflect off the glass, and I can see if I've cleaned up everything or have missed anything. Alright. Okay, so this camera is pretty much ready to go. It needs a little bit more cleaning up on the outside to clean up the chrome a little bit, and of course I need to clean up the inside a little bit more, but functionally it's ready to go. The light seals have been replaced. The Viewfinder and Rangefinder are clean and clear. The lenses inside and out are clean. Everything seems to be functioning properly on this camera, and it's good to go. Anyway, That's going to be it for this video on how to clean up an Olympus 35 DC rangefinder camera. If you like this video and want to see more, please subscribe. And also, of course, if you like the video, hit the like button. I plan to be posting more videos about cameras and camera repairs here on my channel. So thank you very much for coming, and I hope you tune in again soon.